Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
And the ending of the whole story as well, as you were saying, Meg, about that nothing happened, where it's this kind of like Hollywood kiss in the night, and there's just on like a rainy high street, and there's a Greg's.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like,
and
Greg's.
It's just, yeah.
I went to Greg's today for lunch.
But how nice is that? That just kind of like the glamour and the beauty in the mundane. I thought that's quite just a nice, quite endearing ending.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, joining Flixwatcher today we have Sarah.
Hi.
Meg.
Hi.
And Kobe.
Hey.
And we're going to be talking about human traffic.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his editing skills. Please remember, if you're listening to us right now, to head over to Spotify and or Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review, because it really does help us. And also join the conversation with us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and also Instagram at FlixWatcher.
Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Our guests today are Sarah and Meg. Over to you please, Meg, to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, I'm Meg. I'm a freelance writer who writes about film and culture for magazines like Stylist and Glamour. And yeah, that is what I do.
But you just talk about film for those ones, Stylist and Glamour, or do you branch out a bit wider as well?
Yeah, no. So I do actually write about pretty much everything under the sun for those two places. I like to try and focus on film, TV, because that's where my interests sort of lie. But yeah, if you're interested, you can find me writing about women's lifestyle, careers, the odd sort of news piece. Yeah, whole range, very versatile.
There's a pitch to a lot of editors there.
Yes, hire me. I can do anything.
I really enjoyed the opportunities that both those magazines had for kind of exploring Barbie over the summer. There was just like loads of really, really great pieces that were available. And yeah, it's not very often that kind of like female lifestyle get to really have like their film moment, and it just felt that lots of people got different opportunities to kind of talk about things that obviously like burning things, and it's like, yes, we've got our moment to get in on the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. I think that film resonated with like so many people, and well, so many women particularly, in so many different ways. I did a piece for Glamour on the whole depression Barbie moment, which I really enjoyed, purely because of the 1995 Pride and Prejudice reference, which like I think I screamed out loud when it came on the screen, just because I was like, how does she know? But yeah, it was like such a surprising film in so many ways that I was really impressed with, but also managed to be have something for everyone.
Yeah. Who are you in my left-hand corner?
Hi, my name's Sarah Collier. I'm a PhD researcher and writer in English and film, and I also work in the documentary distribution business.
So what inspired you to do a PhD? I assume it's in film in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, I really hated my job, so I wanted to go back to school.
Fuck this.
No, I've always been interested in the subject area. I do like masculinity and war, so I just kind of naturally progressed into thinking about how these ideas are portrayed on screen, and especially how they intersect with like technology and visual culture and stuff. So yeah, it felt like the right time to go and do that. And I'm just like slowly, painfully crawling to the end of it right now.
Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
It was your choice of film today. You chose nothing to do with war. Potentially, I was commentary on masculinity in the 90s. You chose Human Traffic. Can you tell us why, first of all, you chose it? And I'll get the timer out shortly, and you'll have 60 seconds or less to give us your synopsis.
Yeah, so I chose it because it's an old favourite. I watched it when I was growing up. I mean, like, I was 6 when it came out, so I can't say that I was immersed in the club culture of Wales at the time. But
me just dying a little deaf at you being 6 when this came out.
But what I will say is that I think it does speak to a certain part of like British youth and growing up, regardless of when you did that whole thing, when you did like being in your early 20s and partying and feeling a bit directionless. So it is a time capsule on the one hand, but also I think there is a bit of a universality and a timelessness to it. Yeah, I really love the energy and the kind of chaos and just the sheer joy. I love the fact that you can watch it and you can unpack it and you can think about social commentary if you want, but you also really don't have to, and you can just, you know, sit down and enjoy the ride. It's not really that deep.
Had you seen it before or even heard about it before, Meg? You come from Canada, so...
Yes, no, this was like very far from my radar. I'd never seen it, never heard of it, but was very excited to watch it.
Well, I look forward to finding out your thoughts in a second. Let's get to the synopsis in 60 seconds or less. Timer starting now.
Human Traffic is a 1999 comedy drama coming-of-age story directed by Justin Kerrigan, set during the twilight of the 90s rave culture in Cardiff. The narrative happens over the space of largely 24 hours and follows a group of friends in their early 20s. So that's Jip, played by Simm, Koop, Lulu, Nina, and Moff, played by Dyer, as they finish their dead-end jobs on a Friday and they go out on a big drug-fueled night out. And that's basically it. But interwoven through this seemingly very basic arc of, you know, getting pilled up and then coming down, we've got all of these kind of themes of like growing up and relationships, masculinity, belonging, and also a subtly acerbic commentary on the political media landscape at the time.
Well, there's a timer. Perfect. Helen, when Sarah said she was 6 when this came out, what was your thought?
I just felt very old for that moment. I mean, I probably would have been maybe 17 or 18 when I saw this. I don't think I saw it came out. So like 1999 was like the golden year, I think, for cinema. And like, if you have a look at films that came out, like there's so many like classic films and like defining moments in cinema happened in 1999. It also happened to be the period when my town didn't have a cinema. They basically closed one and they hadn't built the other one. So I didn't get to see a lot of these films at the cinema. So my first experience of this was on, I think probably watching it on VHS. So that kind of like pictures where the time that I saw this. But yeah, it was a complete like flashback to the 90s, and I really enjoyed revisiting it and remembering where we said things like kushti and like there's things where we like twisted our little hair and like put little clips in them, and when Danny Dyer was an actor, which seems like a very long time ago. Yeah,
I also, this came out in 99. I didn't see this at cinema, but I was at university, and this would have been a VHS that I watched. I'm sure I watched it like almost like once a week, just with the guys and in our lounge. I lived in a house of 10 guys, me included. And it was an absolute shit tip. But it was a fun place to live, and films like this and Clark's, and there was just lots of films were just like on pretty much all the time, and this is one of them. It's such a shock to see this now, because it has been, I'm sure it's been 20 years since I watched it. I remember so much. And also there's some key places, there's some interesting parts where I can't believe it happened. They did this in the film. But I was really excited to watch it again. But I was just laughing. I was laughing so much because it's just so bizarre seeing all these actors looking really, really, really young, and thinking back to when I watched this then, thinking, wow, these guys are like, they've got it sorted. They know what they're doing with their life, and they're having a lot of fun with it. But now you just kind of think they're kind of young kids who haven't started life really. It's like, whoa. It's
like some kind of therapy, I think, watching it. It was like, whoa. Oh, life makes sense now.
So Meg, to you, not heard of this before. I thought this would be a very you're from Canada, so this is a very UK centric film. Did Trainspotting make it over your way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw Trainspotting for the first time after I'd moved here, but okay. I was very much aware of it I think it crossed the sort of border, maybe a little bit more. It's nice hearing you both speak about it. I feel like sad that I don't get to watch it through those eyes, I guess, because it's a very different experience. I just felt like quite anxious. I was like, oh, it's still going. But yeah, it's super funny and playful, and I love like how it captures the kind of cheeky side of what I think is still a huge part of British young people in Britain have that still, even if the culture has changed a little. And I guess I moved here in my early 20s, so I have been around young people in Britain, but yeah, it's interesting to see.
What are you saying? You sound like, I don't know, some old person when you said that.
I have been around. I guess still probably a young person. But, yeah, I culturally it is like the time divorce is part of it, but the from the Canadian culture I've experienced, it's quite separate too. So yeah, it was very fun to watch.
Yeah, I think this film is ridden on the coattails of Trainspotting, certainly, which was the main kind of urban Welsh side of things as well. And there was a spate of these kind of films. None of them kind of spring to mind, but just the youth popping out of the screen.
It's like Twin Town, I think, was the other one, wasn't it?
Very, very much indie based, very much pop culture based, very much like off the cuff and acerbic in a way.
Would you say it's like an antidote to Trainspotting though?
Yeah, it's a lot happier and has a more positive outlook. And like, I think if you maybe had seen like Trainspotting before you moved to the UK, you may not have wanted to come over here, because like that is like a very, very, very kind of extreme sort of area of English kind of like life, whereas Human Traffic, there's a lot more kind of like similarities and a bit more familiar there are some like really serious moments, like his mum being a prostitute is quite heavy, and that kind of how that impacts his overall kind of like mental health and his own like sexual issues, which I'd completely not remembered. So it does kind of explore those kind of like strange issues to bring in, but they explore it in a different way. But yeah, it's a lot more optimistic, and ultimately when they're partying, they're having a good time, and the come down only really lasts Sunday. So yeah, I do think this is a lot more upbeat. I didn't like go into it going, oh, this is going to be quite like a hard watch.
Yeah, I do see, Meg, what you're saying though about feeling anxious. Even being like, not being in my 20s anymore. I just felt really scared that they were going to like they were gonna like fall off the balcony, or like, they were like driving a car on the way home, and I was like, oh my god, don't do that. Are you at least wearing a seatbelt?
Not in the 90s.
I think just things like the just smoking everywhere, for example, that put me on edge. Like smoking inside.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. Can you do that? You can't do that. You can't do that.
Smoking in the back of a taxi? Like,
yeah.
Could you imagine doing that now? Your Uber kind of like rocks up and you get in the back, start having a couple of fags. Like,
yeah,
there goes your rating.
Him to Travis Bickle. Fag in hand.
I think it definitely speaks to something about our generation, though, Sarah, as like millennials, the people I know, my friends, I feel like we have become this like super anxious generation.
Yeah.
Since COVID, especially, I don't know. I'm just like, there are too many people in that car. There's like too many people on that balcony. I don't know, just anxiety ridden now, I guess.
What did you guys make of the kind of almost like the vignette aspects of it? So it kind of transpired like a sketch. With sketches with a loose storyline that took them from A to B, and this was a bit on this time I felt maybe could have lost some of the sketches that didn't work so well, and I couldn't remember some of them, like the weird kind of bit in the McDonald's type place where they're all kind of doing the robotic movements, and I was like, what's going on here? I couldn't remember that. And I can remember the spermy guy. What do you think of that, Meg? For example, I thought that was a bit wild. For example,
yeah, I used to study acting, so to me that scene kind of felt like a group of kids in a drama class had been like, this is so cool if we do all this movement and like, so it's kind of charming in that way, I guess. But I that scene in particular, I was like, okay, maybe that's too much.
Because that's quite early on in the film as well, as a weird thing.
Yeah,
cutting edge for like drama in Cardiff in the 90s though. So
props. I mean,
What
about yourself, Helen? When was the last time you watched it, and what was it? What you remembered?
It was a long time ago, and I could just remember like John Simm's face and the scene where they're like looking at their eyes, and because it's obviously on the poster, and it's really funny. And then all the stuff like Jungle is Massive and the dancing and the record shop stuff was just like real flashbacks to that and the music. Although the one thing that I think it doesn't quite have is it doesn't have like the big musical hooks that maybe Train Spotting have, which would probably go to the fact that it probably didn't have that big a budget. But yeah, it's still got the same energy that I remember, and just them kind of like getting ready to go out and kind of the outfits and the just like jumping around their very untidy bedrooms and things. Just I think that's what I remember, the kind of the mundane stuff being put on screen and kind of like celebrated. It was just like, oh yeah, we just like that. Way.
Yeah, that's something that I really take away from it as well, is like, especially watching it now, is how normal they all look. Like the actors and stuff, they're not like Instagramified or with like shiny teeth and perfect hair or whatever. They just look very, very normal in a really refreshing way, I think, with excellent outfits as well.
I think at one point John Simm was probably my favourite actor, and I think that would have come from this. There's also a TV show called The Lakes, which I loved back at university, but I haven't really followed him much since then. It's good to see him pop up when he, if you're Who'ing, watching him play the Master in early reiterations of the revised Doctor Who, for example, and him and Danny were really strange to me to see them again on screen, because I think I really like Danny at this point, because Danny Dyer's doing a lot of these other things like this, like It's Harry on the Boat and these kind of slightly gangsterish side of things, and it was a bit like oi oi oi, kind of white boy. It's another thing, by the way. They went to interesting lengths to get people who didn't have a Cardiff accent to be in Cardiff at the same time, because none of the main cast were from Cardiff.
And they always explain it.
Maybe that's how they all got together, but we're not from Cardiff, so just excuse this. We just want you people in the film, and we're going to have some like random story to explain why you don't have this Cardiff accent. So Danny Dyer, and what I was really looking forward to seeing on this rewatch 20 years down the line was to see how many people had blossomed out of it. Because I knew Danny Dyer, well, he's done his thing. And John Simm's probably the biggest actor I thought coming out of this. But Andrew Lincoln, I think, is the biggest actor that came out of this.
Egg,
as well, I would have known him as Egg at this point. But yeah, going on to be in The Walking Dead, and I think he's probably the biggest actor now, certainly from this film. Well, what about yourselves? I don't know. What was your relationship with any of the actors? Had you seen them before this? Had you?
For the most part, it felt like sort of unfamiliar faces, although obviously I was familiar with Danny Dyer as sort of a figure.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, what's his name? The Walking Dead actor?
Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's weird when he popped up on the screen. I just was expecting it to be like a sea of sort of unfamiliar faces. So yeah, I think that kind of helps my viewing experience, that they just felt like very normal, at least to look at, very normal people.
Sarah?
Yeah, same. I'm not super familiar with any of them apart from John Simm and Danny Dyer. Yeah. I mean, I quite like Danny Dyer. I quite like how he's become a sort of British institution, I guess. And people have sort of reluctantly come to love him over the years.
Sean Parks was in Small Axe.
Mangrove.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was the main guy in Small Axe, and his acting in that was like absolutely phenomenal. So I was really keen. I was really made up to see him again. I haven't seen, but this is the first time I saw him. But the other guys, the female actors, I just don't recall seeing them again, unfortunately. Helen, anything from yourself with the actors at all?
No, I mean, I don't really watch much TV, so I think I probably missed most of the later stuff that people were doing. But yeah, I'd completely forgotten that Andrew Lincoln was in it, and yeah, he's always going to be like Egg for me. So whenever I see him on screen, I always shout Egg. That's just like a thing that I do, and I was like, oh yeah, he's in it, because he did kind of like pop up in things like this and was doing quite popular TV around that time.
Anything else you want to say, guys, before we head to the scores?
I wanted to find out what you guys thought about that arc in general of the night out. Did you think there was enough story in it?
Well, I think this is kind of an atypical night out, because this is a night out when everything happens, when friends get together or people get together, and it becomes like the story of the night kind of things. And this is one of those epic nights out that you do recall back to your well, whenever you get back together with those friends again, you're saying, remember that night when Moff got caught wanking by his mum, and and that's when we first had our kiss and stuff like that. And you know, there's those kind of big, really, really, really big nights out. So I kind of love that epicness about it, but that doesn't happen every night.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it feels kind of like magic almost, and they're already looking back on it as this magical night. Although there's also, I think it does a great job of capturing that, like, also nothing happened on that night. Like, my favorite scene, I think, is when they're talking about Star Wars in the kitchen, and it's like, oh my God. it's just perfect.
When they get to the end and they're like, R2-D2, right? Oh, no, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And the ending of the whole story as well, as you were saying, Meg, about that nothing happened, where it's this kind of like Hollywood kiss in the night, and there's just on like a rainy high street, and there's a Greg's.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, Greg's.
Yeah,
I went to Greg's today for lunch.
But how nice is that? They're just kind of like the glamour and the beauty in the mundane. I thought there's quite just a nice, quite endearing ending.
Yeah. Should we head to the scores?
Let's do it.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Koop from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. All of our scores are out of 5, and you can have decimal places if you wish. And we'll start with you, please, Sarah, with your recommendability.
I'm putting it at a 3, because I think I would recommend it to all my peers. I wouldn't recommend it to my mum.
Mum, if the door's locked, this is why the door might be shut. So 3, Meg.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a solid 3. Definitely, if you know someone is going to enjoy it, then it's a great watch, but maybe not for absolutely everybody.
Helen.
Yeah, so the nostalgia hits hard when watching this, and I think probably about 70% of it holds up, and then there's some bits that just don't. And
like his boss at work, for example.
Yeah, that was a bit creepy and a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff is just really, really timeless. And we've all been to parties where you just end up talking gibberish, and you think you've met your new best mate, and you're going to be mates for life, and you never speak to them again. So it really captures that being young and partying, but of a particular time a little bit as well. So yeah, I really, really did enjoy watching it. But I think as time goes on, how people are going to connect with it coming through is probably going to be a little bit less. But I'm going to give it a 4, because I don't think we get that many films like this being made in England still, the UK, I should say, where it's just really just we're going to do this, and we're just going to put all these ideas through, and we're going to have a really simple story and do it in a really creative way. So it makes me a little bit nostalgic for 1999, where anything was possible and you could get kind of a film made on a small budget and people would go and see it. So I'm just going to give it a 4 because I really like it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.8 here, because I can't think of anyone who I'd recommend it to who hasn't seen it already. My recommendation would be, guys, Human Traffic is on Netflix. We haven't seen it in 20 years. Go and watch it, because it'll blow your mind in certain ways. But if Meg, I was to meet you in the pub, and I would never think to recommend this film to you, because it's so far removed and it's just so odd in places. Unless I said, look, John Simm's in it is really good. Sean Parks, Andrew Lincoln, and also Richard Coyle, who I really liked. He used to be in a TV show called Coupling, as one of the main characters. He was the guy that Moff was talking to about Star Wars. And that was the first time I saw him. So there's all these things like that which may pull you through, but it's just, I think it's very much encapsulates British youth culture at that kind of time. And if you were born 10 years before or after it coming out, then definitely watch it again. But other than that, I'm not sure who I'd recommend it to. Apart from say, you haven't watched it for a while, watch it again. So 3.8. Repeat viewing score, Sarah. How many times have you seen this then, do you think?
I think I've probably seen it about 5 times. And I'm going to give it a crisp 5 as a repeat viewing. Because it's a mood piece, right? It's nothing happens. You can't get bored of a story because there isn't one. You can just return to it when you're feeling a bit low, a bit hungover. Maybe you're feeling happy with your friends, you said, Kobe, and you just want to relive some good times. So yeah, you can watch it again and again.
Meg, will you watch this again?
I'll give it a 3.5. I would definitely watch it again if Sarah invited me around and offered to put it on. I wouldn't say no.
Put it on your big TV.
Yeah, you can come watch it on my big TV. Yeah, 3.5. I probably wouldn't watch it alone by myself.
I think it'd be interesting if you watch it with other people who'd seen it before and are revisiting it. Helen?
I don't know how many times I have seen it. Quite a few. Probably a few of those I don't really recall being that kind of like sober watching them. So do they count? I don't know. How much I'm going to watch it? I enjoy this nice little nostalgia hit, but there's some bits that are a bit like, oh, it's not quite landing. I don't know whether watching it more times now will take a little bit of the nostalgia hit away. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 for repeat. I really enjoyed rewatching it again.
I'm going to give it a 4 for all the times I watched it before. And I was, like I say, I was so surprised at how many things I did remember. Like the bit where he sits down and watches Bill Hicks before going out. There's things like that which I'm like, why do I remember that sequence? And I'm sure that's catalyzed me seeking out Bill Hicks, because I think I've watched now everything that Bill Hicks. I've read his scripts, which is really into do. But I'm sure that's where my fascination with Bill Hicks came from. Was from this film. I didn't remember things like the Howard Marks interlude where the spliff's been passed around, for example. I didn't remember that happening. I remembered the Moff being caught by his mum. I remember thinking that's probably...
You can't really forget that though, can you? It's almost like you've lived through his embarrassment when you've watched that scene.
So yeah, I would like to watch it. Yeah, I think it's just really, really interesting. I'm kind of... nostalgia hit, like Helen says, is really, really high on this. Small screen score. Sarah?
I'm going to give it a 4. I think it works well on the small screen. I think I would have been too stressed to watch it on a big screen. There's just so much colour and energy and chaos. But I'm a bit intrigued as to what that would look like. But yeah, I'm quite satisfied with containing it on a TV.
Containing it. Meg?
Yeah, I think 4 for me as well. I guess because it's kind of this like low budget 90s film, it feels appropriate to be watching it maybe on a smaller screen. And yeah, I don't know if there was like a screening in a cinema, what that experience would be like. Probably very different experience.
Helen?
Yeah, so again, I've only ever seen it like on a home size screen, and I don't know how the quality would stand to be like blown up on a big screen. So I think rather than seeing it at a cinema, I think in company is the preference. So at home with company. So I'm going to give it a 5 for small screen.
I'd quite like to see this at Prince Charles with other people who are fans of the film. I think that'd be interesting, as Meg said, just to see what that's like. But other than that, I think it's fine. I'm not sure. I mean, Helen talked about the music not hitting, and I'm thinking back to that made me think about Trainspotting, and Trainspotting's got a few of the big songs like Lust for Life, which are big Stone Cold classics. But then also things like Underworld Born Slippy wasn't a hit until that film came out, so that would have been bought for very cheap. And there's some songs in this which are really cool, like some Massive Attack and some Primal Scream, Cafe Del Mar, some songs which really kind of pull me back into that kind of era. But then there wasn't really like
it's not that big bang.
Yeah, a moment where the big banger made sense. So, but I'd like to see if that was different on the big screen, is what I'm saying. So I think I'm going for a 4.2 because I think it works fine. And my previous viewings were on a rented TV in the Studentville with a VHS tape. So this is definitely the best quality I've ever seen this film in. So 4.2 engagement score, Sarah.
I think I'm going to give it a 3. I think as you were saying, Kobe, there's this kind of episodic structure to it, which means that you can dip in and out, and you don't actually have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to. Yeah, a 3.
Meg, sorry, I took a swig of beer just as I should have been naughty.
Don't worry, I'll give it a 3.5. Maybe that's because it was my first time viewing. I didn't have any urge to switch it off or to walk away and take a break. But yeah, I can definitely see that it's if you've seen it a bunch of times, it's a great one to have on, and you can maybe watch a couple of your favorite scenes even because of its sort of vignette structure.
What do you guys make of them speaking to the camera so much? I didn't remember that aspect of it, and I found it a bit off-putting at some points. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I know what you mean. It feels a bit, it does feel a bit kind of, I don't know, jarring. But I guess I quite like how it's quite self-aware. I don't know if you guys got that impression. It's quite conscious of itself being quite silly and a bit of an assault. So like, it's like what you were saying, Helen, about some of the dialogue and some of these like corny quips that in any other context would be corny, but for some reason they managed to get away with it. Like when he's like, she's a real headbanger. It's like, oh God, who says that? But it works, you know?
It doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that goes like across for everything. And, you know, that era of filmmaking was kind of doing things that maybe were a little bit different. And maybe we're kind of like used to people like breaking the fourth wall all the time now. Like it just happens like all the time. And probably when they were doing it, they were like, oh, we're doing this like crazy thing. And I think it works. I think it works in that kind of way where it's quite endearing, but not necessarily like lands all the time.
So engagement score, Helen.
So I'm going to give it 3.5 as well. I mean, not much happens. A group of friends go out. That is it. Like it's not like a safe cracking movie where you have to like work out who did the double cross and did the thingy, and at the end it turns out it was a chicken. There's nothing like that. It's just people having a good time and taking loads of drugs, and that's kind of it, and that's fine.
I'm going to go for a 4 here, mainly because it has been 2 decades since I last saw it, so I was keen to see if I'd remembered as much as I did, so I was kind of paying attention to it. For subsequent watches, I don't think I'll be as engaged, and I think it is probably a film that I could, you know, just be in the background doing other stuff and just looking up when more interesting bits for me come to the fore. But 4.1 on this rewatch. And that gives us an overall score of 3.81875. Yeah, all right. I thought it was going to be lower than that, to be honest with you, but there we go. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah and Meg. It's been an absolute pleasure. And when you said human traffic, I was genuinely like, I don't know what this is going to be like.
It was either going to be brilliant or a bit embarrassing.
Bit of both in places, I think.
And it was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. We struck a happy medium, I think.
So like that sperm guy, for example. I just wonder if he wakes up and I go, oh, for fuck's sake, why did I? I'm sure he loved doing it at the time, but now thinking, oh yeah, I was a guy that was covered in slime.
I mean, I just can't stop thinking about sofas in nightclubs. Like, I don't really visit them very often, but like, do they still put sofas in nightclubs? Did they ever put sofas in nightclubs? Yeah.
There's one in the Prince of Peckham.
Oh, wow. There was always stuff, there was seating by the side in places, but like sofas.
My nightclub had sofas.
Did it? Wow.
Yeah.
That cleaning bill must have been pretty like...
I don't think they clean them.
Nice. Sorry, Sarah.
It's okay. I was going to say tapping ash off the balcony in the nightclub. What a health hazard.
Just all the smoking just makes me feel a bit ill a little bit as well. It's just like, oh, guys.
Well, Sarah, Meg, can you tell us where we can find you guys online?
Sure. So I'm at Words by Meg on Twitter. You can find me there. And yeah, please come follow me and talk to me. And I don't know, maybe don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me.
And yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well at Sarah Collier, COLR.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.